Brad Farren here may look like Merlin, but he doesn't have Merlin's hat on, but what he does do is design light. You must be like a magician sometimes on a film.
We have that opportunity, yes.
And you've got the ultimate light in Manhattan Project. This is not just any kind of light you're dealing with here to photograph.
That's right. This project was a great deal of fun because we had a chance to combine lasers and robots and atomic bombs and all sorts of things that most people haven't asked us to combine before.
Spoken like a true Merlin,
That's right.
I think. Many of us may not realize how difficult it is to photograph in a situation involving laser light. What is dangerous about that? What are the problems?
Well, when you're dealing with lasers that are of a high enough power to photograph well in a film, the primary rule is to keep your body out of the way of the laser beam. If you follow that, it tends to be a fairly painless procedure.
Now, is John Lithgow really lighting that cigar?
I confess John Lithgow is actually lighting the cigar. When he puts his cigar in the laser beam, the ignition is from the heat of the beam rather than other effects.
So it's potentially a dangerous thing to do.
Yes, that's why you should put your cigar into the beam rather than your finger.
And your nose
That's
or something
right.
like that. I have to think that Harpo Marx would have enjoyed lighting his cigars just like that. What are some of the other problems, challenges encountered on your work on the film? And how would you describe, what is your official title here on this thing?
Well, my official title is Special Visual Effects. My practical title is Gadgets and Doodads.
I love it. Let's stay with that.
The major challenge on this project was to create a real-looking nuclear environment in terms of a research laboratory, a manufacturing plant, and at the same time a homemade device.
Let's say we've got two research laboratories here, don't we?
That's stereo.
Yeah. In fact, why don't we stay with those two labs? They seem to be the central working theme of the picture. One homemade, one federally sponsored. How do you make them look like what they look like?
Well, first of all, it's being aware and sensitive to the technologies that really exist. I mean, our guiding light on this film was make it a credible look. When you're looking at the laboratories, you're not seeing blinking lights and false walls and a number of other elements. You're looking at real equipment used in atomic energy research, and we specifically went out of our way not to make it look like a quote-unquote Hollywood movie, but instead to look like a location involved in this sort of work.
I would almost guess it would be tougher to design the kids' basement lab than it would be the other one.
It's harder because there's actually less prior art.
Prior art, I love it.
When designing a homemade atomic bomb factory, one has to deal with a number of the peculiarities. One, of the physics and the science of how atomic bombs work, but beyond that, of the procedures for handling plutonium, which, while it is not particularly intensely radioactive in a way that'll hurt you, is in fact quite poisonous in a way that'll hurt you. And a lot of the time and effort in the lab was designing ways of handling plutonium without having a $100 million facility.
Was there a movie somewhere in your lost youth that really fired you up to do this sort of work?
Well, not to design bombs, but in terms of visual effects, I think early experiences such as the film 2001 certainly left their mark in terms of, gee, that looks like it would be a fun thing to do.
I'm thinking of all those great 30s films designed by an electronics wizard whose name escapes me right now, the Frankenstein sets and
well,
all of those.
There were a number of those. I confess that I came to appreciate those, I think, later in life rather than early on. It's been interesting. The more one works in the field and learns about it, you actually gain respect from some of the earlier things that were easy to overlook at the time.
Why Brad Farren on Manhattan Project? How did you get involved?
It's a living. Basically, the phone rings, and no, in a project like this, Marshall Brickman called early on in the script and story development, and it seemed like a very interesting project. It seemed like an opportunity, again, to do visual effects work that is not traditional per se. It's not rocket ships, it's not explosions and so forth. It's creating a mood, a feel, and a style that's consistent throughout the film. That's a great deal of fun as a challenge.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had fun with this.
A great deal of fun. The people on the film were wonderful. I mean, one hears that said too often, but in fact it's true. This was a film with many very bright, talented, creative people, and it was a universally good experience.
Is it a dream job, getting paid to work with gadgets?
Oh, sure. I mean, one of the nice things about special effects work is as compared to a lot of real things that one could do with one's life, it's the opportunity to earn a living playing with toys and at the same time doing things that haven't been done in a way that's fun.
Yeah.
And hard to argue with that.
Finally, Pick an effect, any effect from the picture that you want us to look at very closely and be proud in what you have done.
Well, I think that the gadget itself is a nice effect. It's not a traditional effect in the way, yes, that you think about it, but that was a lot of thought, time, work, energy, and sweat, and hopefully it works for the picture and for the audience.
Given access to some plutonium, could that thing work?
That's optional.
Now there's a strategic answer for you. Who designed your beard, Brad?
I send it out daily, and it comes back first thing in the morning.
Because it looks vaguely electrified right now.
That's right.
Mr. Merlin.
Thank you.
Brad Farren of Manhattan Project, and from New Orleans for KCTV5, I'm John Tibbetts.